Welcome back to Unscripted, TCU's signature sports show, talking about sports here on campus and around the world. I'm Daniel McCree, and I'm here with Aidan Reimer and Darius Adams. How are you boys doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you, Danny?
I'm pretty good. How are you, Darius?
I'm hyped. 1 week away from the kickoff of the NFL season, and we're all hyped. I'm ready to win the Unscripted Fantasy League. Let's
Okay,
get right
buddy.
into it, man.
Big
we'll
shot.
see if that happens. But talking about starting off hot, how about that TCU women's soccer, bro? They're 3-0 to start out. What do you think about them, Aidan?
First of all, before we get into that game, we really got to congratulate Coach Eric Bell. That was his 152nd win. He is now the all-time winningest head coach for TCU women's soccer. He's done a great job, and this momentum he's going in with this season is truly incredible. I'm excited to see what this team does.
Yeah, TCU women's soccer is off to a scorching hot start, and I believe that they're proving why they're a top 10 team in the nation. When we evaluated this roster going into the season, we said, hey, this is a team that's bringing back a good chunk of their roster, and they're looking to build off a successful season from last year. This was a team that won a Big 12 regular season championship, a team that advanced to the second round of the NCAA tournament. So I believe Eric Bell is really preaching into these ladies that, hey, we're not just looking to dominate the Big 12, but we're looking to bring a national championship home back to Funkytown.
And it certainly helps when you got a player like Emma Ulinski. She had a fantastic scoring drive. She was juking, she was jiving, she was doing everything she could to possibly score on this one play. She had an incredible game, and I really think going forward she's going to be real hot for the rest of the season.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're on a roll. But for another team at TCU that wants to get on a roll, how about those boys, Josh Hoover and TCU Horned Frogs football, bro, going to North Carolina against Bill Belichick, bro, his starter game against us. The last time a popular coach had a starter game against us, Deion Sanders in Colorado, it did not go so well.
We don't talk about that.
So this is kind of like a redemption game right here.
Absolutely.
We're on the road. How do you guys think this game's going to go?
This will be a dominant performance from TCU going into game 1. Now, here's the thing. I love Bill Belichick. He is the greatest coach in the history of the game of football. We all know his success and his records as a New England Patriots head coach after his mutual, quote-unquote, mutual departure. But here's the thing here. UNC has an entirely new roster, and I believe time is the most important thing when you're bringing in over 70 new players into this program.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you have no Amarion Hampton. Just got selected first round, 22 overall pick from the LA Chargers, and he made up about 40% of UNC's offensive production last season.
Exactly.
You just can't make that up over a course of an offseason. You need time, and I believe Bill Belichick, he's a great coach. He will turn this program around. But at the end of the day, I would be a fool if I sat up here on this program, TCU Unscripted, and said that Bill Belichick in his first game as a college football head coach would be an experienced TCU roster with an offense that averaged around 33.5 points per game and over 400 yards offensively. I would be a fool to say that TCU wins in blowout fashion.
I like what you're saying
Strong
over there.
statement, right?
I like what you're saying over there, but I'm kind of nervous. I see this more as a trap game than I think you might.
Whoa.
When
I
you
can see
look
it as
at this
that.
team, this is a brand new team. We have no idea what this team's going to show up on Monday. They have a brand new head coach in Bill Belichick. They got brand new offensive and defensive coordinators, and on top of that, they got a brand new quarterback in Gino Lopez. We don't know how this team is going to look. This is very concerning for us because I see this as being a trap game. Now, last year we had a fantastic offense. We can't deny that, but our defense was a bit middle of the pack, and that's my big concern. That being said, we're getting a lot more talent than we did have last year, so I'm really excited to see what this defense can do. And as long as our run game is at least good, we're going to be fantastic on the offense. But I do think this is going to be a very low-scoring affair. It's going to be very high defense. I think we're probably going to win about 17-14.
Yeah, and speaking of that run game, this was an offense in TCU who did have a lackluster run game last season. This was just a running game that averaged just over 113 yards per game in 24. That was among the worst in the Big 12. Now, you lost Cam Cook, who transferred to Jacksonville State, but you brought in Kavorian Barnes from UTSA, and I believe that he will be a big factor in this game. I believe the running game for TCU is really the big unit to watch in Week 1. But I have TCU winning 35-14. Josh Hoover, dominant performance.
That's
I
a
don't
strong
believe
statement,
UNC at
bro.
all.
I kind of have to lean with Aidan there. I think they're going to do really good in this game, but if they're going to pull away by that much, TCU hasn't had the best record of showing off, starting off strong like that, but we'll see maybe dominating fashion to make a statement at the beginning of the season. Bill Belichick, though, he's not a big fan of that, so we'll have to go check for that, though. But, well, real fast, let's just do picks. You said TCU 35-14. What about you?
I said TCU 17-14. I think it's going to be a very defensive matchup. I think it's going to be low scoring. I mean, Bill Belichick, we know he's the defensive mastermind. I think he's going to bring an NFL scheme to the collegiate level. So I'm a bit concerned about that, but I do think TCU is going to pull it out.
I'd say TCU 33-27. I think it's going to be a nice scoring affair. I think, like you said, they might have some trap things from North Carolina, might pull some stuff out on us, but that offense is too hot to pick against them right now. But we can't go through all this without going against the main team and the DFW area. We know that everybody's been looking at the news, at the drama all season long, or all off season long. Let's talk about them boys, bro. Let's talk about them Cowboys.
First of all, I really want to first credit Jerry Jones, although I do not, don't necessarily like the guy, but I will say this has been a pretty good offseason, all things considered. Okay. If you look at the draft in our top 3 rounds, we had a fantastic selection. We got a brand new offensive line, we got some new defensive edge position, and we also got a brand new cornerback that I all think are going to be some fantastic pieces moving forward. Now, I still have some concerns for that run game with Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, and Jaden Blue, but I do think it's going to be a lot better than it was last year. And the big thing I really want to talk about is that George Pickens trade. We basically got a fantastic wide receiver 2 that can become a wide receiver 1 for basically a 3rd-round pick. That's a fantastic value for that position. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. And although Dak has his problems, if he has a stable run game, he's a top 10 quarterback. And I do think he's going to produce.
Top 10 quarterback?
Absolutely. You give him a good run game, he's going to produce. And with this, level of receivers, he's going to have a fantastic year. And I am very excited to see what he does on that offense.
We'll see how that goes. We'll see if that happens. What about you, Darius?
Aidan, I really do agree with you on this topic about the Cowboys offense. Now, I do believe from a passing aspect, this will be a top 10 passing offense in the NFL. I do agree with the fact that the addition of George Pickens really opens up this offense. And people are forgetting that George was the guy in Pittsburgh. He was the #1 receiver on a lackluster offense who had a multitude of quarterbacks, whether it was Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Mason Rudolph. It did not matter. George Pickens was the guy. And in only 14 games last year, he had over 100 receptions. Now he's coming into an offense who has another top 5 wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb, a quarterback in Dak Prescott, who we know is a phenomenal thrower of the football.
He can be great.
Exactly.
He can.
Exactly. Now, you have an offensive line who has taken a few hits over the past few years. No Zach Martin anymore.
Exactly.
He tried to bring in La'el Collins again for a reunion, and that did not work out. Tyler Smith is the most experienced offensive lineman on this roster, so I'm really interested to see how that will go. And I am also concerned about the run game as well. Now, you mentioned Jaden Blue. You mentioned Javonte Williams from Denver. We brought in Miles Sanders from Carolina. But how productive will these guys be? When we look back at last year, regardless of the Dak Prescott injury, the #1 concern that I had for the Cowboys was that red zone offense. This was a team that was 31st in red zone offense last year. They only scored touchdowns on only 46% of their visits to the red zone last season in 2024. So how will that work out for the Cowboys this season, even with the addition of George Pickens?
And, we're talking a whole lot about the offense, but there is kind of one glaring issue that we're kind of avoiding right now, for our sake at least.
That defense last year.
Micah Parsons still hasn't signed. And as a Cowboys fan, I will say it's very concerning to know that he's just not there yet. We haven't gotten to a deal yet, and that's very concerning. But in my opinion, I don't know if you might agree with me here, I think a deal's going to get done no matter what. Jerry Jones, he's made a lot of mistakes. I can think back to the whole Dak Prescott fiasco with the franchise tags. I can look at DeMarco Murray with him not signing him. You can even go back all the way to the 90s when they actually won something. He didn't want to sign Emmitt Smith. I don't know what he was thinking there, but he's going to get a deal done with Micah Parsons. You look, he's one of the greatest young edge rushers in the league. He is, at the very least, he's top 3 in his position. And also, he's like #5 in jersey sales. Jerry Jones look at that, and he gets all excited because he's like, man, I can make some money off of this fella.
Money, man.
Yeah.
You think this is all drama for his documentary show or something?
I'm going to be honest with you, man.
He loves that stuff.
That is the biggest victory lap I've ever seen an owner ever do in my entire life. That entire show is basically, woo, look at me, I'm Jerry Jones.
10 out of 10.
Sounds just like him.
It's a rough watch, I'm going to be honest with you. But yes, I do think Jerry Jones has gone on statement and said he likes making the Cowboys popular. He likes saying things to make it recognizable. So I think this might just be a big publicity stunt. But I'm fairly confident he's going to show up against the Philadelphia Eagles on September 4th.
Yeah. Danny, Aidan, you guys know me. You know I'm a very relaxed guy, okay? And even with the drama and the soap opera that is the Dallas Cowboys 365 days a year, I'm not concerned at all, and I'm not panicking because, like you said, this is what Jerry Jones does. He relishes in controversy. He enjoys conflict. He enjoys seeing the Dallas Cowboys on every major public network in America. And let's take a visit down memory lane. Contract disputes and contract negotiations with Jerry Jones has basically been a rite of passage for every recent Dallas Cowboys star in the past 10 years. Man. Des Bryant went through his whole contract negotiation controversy with Jerry back in 2015, 2016. Ezekiel Elliott held out 40 days of training camp. and got paid 4 days before the season. Zach Martin held out the first few weeks of training camp. Jerry Jones increased his salary by $8.5 million and made that deal fully guaranteed. CeeDee Lamb held out of mandatory minicamp and training camp after the Justin Jefferson deal and signed a 4-year, $136 million deal 2 weeks before the season. Then last year, Dak Prescott, the face of America's team, got paid and became the highest paid quarterback, the NFL's first $60 million man, 5 hours before the season opened last year against the Cleveland Browns. When it comes to the Micah Parsons fiasco, it's only a matter of time. We saw this with 2 guys that were threatening to hold out the season. A few days ago, Terry McLaurin got paid. Trey Hendrickson risked sitting out the entire season for Cincinnati, arguably the cheapest organization in all of professional sports. And what did they do? He got paid, making $30 million this season on a 1-year deal. And Jerry Jones has already made it clear, perfectly clear, that no trade is imminent. He said he has possession, quote unquote, possession of Micah for the next 3 years. So as far as I see it, it's only a matter of time before Micah Parsons gets paid and is a Dallas Cowboy for the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. I just want to add one more thing before we go to the next segment. Not only are we saying we're expecting to be on the field, but coaches and players are expecting to be on the field. Brian Schottenheimer, brand new head coach, he's expecting them to show up on September 4th. Dak Prescott, as I already said, is going to show up on September 4th. Trayvon Diggs has made a very big statement saying he will show up, he's going to be there. So if all these people are expecting them to show up, he's going to be there September 4th.
Exactly. Yeah, Jerry Jones, he just loves making the Cowboys a reality show. It's just a thing. But real fast, Cowboys record predictions?
You know, I never like giving just one number. I kind of like giving a bit of a range. So my floor right now is about 8 and 9. I think as long as everyone stays healthy, I think, you know, we might struggle a little bit. Very big concerns with that run game. But I think if everything goes right, that run game starts to produce a little, I think we might go 11 and 6. I'm pretty hopeful about this year with the outcome we might have.
You know what, Aidan? If Micah Parsons signs before week 1, next Thursday night versus Philadelphia, I have the Dallas Cowboys going 12 and 5 this season. I know post-bye they have a few difficult matchups against Philadelphia, Kansas City, and Detroit, but I really do believe that this offense really improved with the addition of George Pickens. I am really impressed with the offense. I'm looking forward to see what Brian Schottenheimer has instilled in this team as a new head coach, new culture, new energy, and I'm really excited and intrigued to see how this team performs week 1 against the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles.
That's a big take. I would say I think they have a slump to start out with, so I think they're going to probably lose some games early. But sometimes, like you said, if Dak Prescott and Micah Parsons, everybody stays healthy all the way through, we have seen the Cowboys do a turnaround midseason a lot. Like Jerry Jones loves making in-season signings and stuff if he sees stuff's not going his way. So I could definitely see that happening around the bye. It's right there in the middle of the season. If that stuff happens and the turnaround happens, I could see 11 and 6 or so. But if that doesn't, then I see like 8 and 9 or worse. Probably about 8 and 9 if nothing happens. But that was all great. Now, guys, we're going to transition to our outfielders, Ainsley and Maddox. Let's see what they have to say. Dang, it looks like TCU does not believe in the Cowboys this year. How does that make you feel?
What's new? I mean, I'm not gonna lie. A lot of people are not big fans of the Dallas Cowboys, so that, you know,
Understandable.
I accept it. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, the most hated team in America, and I'm really shocked that the team in the school that is around 30 minutes away from AT&T Stadium has no faith and no belief and no hope in this team at all, but it's expected. But I believe that this Cowboys team will prove everybody in the TCU community wrong.
It is what it is. But talking about the Cowboys, what's a team that could give them their run for their money this year, like a team that's really improved?
When I look at the NFC, there's one team that I don't think is going to be the flashiest team in the NFL, and I don't even think they're going to make the playoffs, but one team I really want to look out for in the NFC is the Carolina Panthers.
Ooh, solid pick.
I think, their dark days as a franchise should hopefully be over. I mean, you look at the days where they go 2-15 and Bryce Young, like, is he going to be the starting guy? I think those kind of concerns have qualmed for the most part. You look at the offseason, they've done a lot of work to ensure that Bryce Young is going to be protected this next couple of years. Dave Canales, I think he's a fantastic offensive mind. I think he's going to have an absolute field day with this new receiving core that they brought in. And finally, they got the 5th easiest schedule in the NFL right now. They have a total cakewalk, and I expect them to win at least 8 wins.
I do agree with that. I do expect a lot of improvement from Carolina, even considering the fact that the NFC South is pretty much up for grabs, just like I believe the North is. But one team I have improving this season is an NFC North team, and I'm buying it to the hype for Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears.
What?
I believe the North is up for grabs. I look at the Detroit Lions. They went 15-2 last season, and they just lost Aaron Glenn to the New York Jets, and they just lost Ben Johnson to a divisional rival. And I believe that the Chicago Bears will really turn around offensively. Now look at these stats from last year. They ranked last in total offense, 31st in passing, 31st on third down efficiency, and 28th in scoring. Going up is the only option.
Don't say that.
Going up is the only
Don't
option.
say that.
That's one way to look at it.
All right, man. From a Ben Johnson aspect, I expect elite play calling from him. We know he was an offensive guru, an offensive genius in Detroit. And now, although he has some phenomenal weapons in Detroit, whether it was Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, James Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, going down the line, I believe he has a solid offensive core in Detroit, in Chicago. You have Adunze, you have DJ Moore, you have DeAndre Swift in the backfield, you have Cole Kmet. You have weapons that are able and capable to winning games. And not to mention, you improved their O-line. You brought in Joe Thuney from Kansas City. You brought in Drew Dalman. You brought in Jonah Jackson. And the biggest concern that we had for this Bears offense for the past few years, dating back to the Justin Fields days, where they had a lackluster offensive line. I believe Ryan Poles did everything in his power to improve the offensive line and give Caleb Williams protection in the backfield. And I expect MVP level play from him. You bring in an offensive genius, you bring in an offensive guru like Ben Johnson. I expect good things coming from Caleb Williams. Chicago will improve, be the most improved team in the NFC this year.
Okay.
Oh, well, hold on a second. You think they're going to win the NFC North?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely.
With Minnesota, with Green Bay, and with Detroit in that division.
I will get to that in one team that will decline.
Oh,
in
my
the NFC.
goodness. All right. Well,
Crazy
Daniel,
takes there.
what do you think of there?
Bro, I don't know about that one. Success-wise, Chicago does not have that.
This is
That's
a
what the
new
labs
culture.
there.
New culture, new era. Ben Johnson's going to turn it around. My favorite for Coach of the Year.
I will say one thing. For the past 3 years, it seems, they are the off-season champion. They seem to do everything around the off-season. And then we're like, oh, we're going to go to the Super Bowl. Then they win 5 games. So I'm going to hold the brakes on the whole Chicago is going to be good this year.
Okay.
We're going to wait a little bit before we start, throwing the parades in Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago is not the place for success for most sports. But a place that I do look for improvement, which might not be the best place for success, is Atlanta.
Okay.
Michael Penix Jr., at the end of the season when he got put in for Kirk Cousins, that team turned around. Against the Commanders and some other top teams in the NFC, they played some good games. They played down to the wire. Some games might not have been totally his fault that they lost. I think that's a team ready for a good improvement this year. I don't think even that running back Bijan Robinson might even be an Offensive Player of the Year candidate. He's really good. And I think the whole team has a really good chance to do something this year. But before we get to those picks, what's some teams you guys might think decline this year?
I'm going to be honest with you. I truly believe the Saints are going to be absolutely abysmal this year. They've been in decline since 2020.
It's like, does it even count as a decline?
Yeah, well, they've been in decline ever since Drew Brees left. But they might win 3 games this year, and that's giving them some credit. This is probably one of the worst rosters I've seen in the NFL. The stars they have, they're getting up there in age. Alvin Kamara's on the wrong side of his 30s, and they're having some struggles when it comes to weapons, and especially that defense. I'm wildly concerned about that defense. And then they got questions at the quarterback. Spencer Rattler should be starting, but we don't know how long of a leash this guy has. We don't know how many games he's going to start. Then they got Tyler Shuck as the backup.
Tyler Shuck.
Yeah, and then finally you got a brand new head coach in Kellen Moore. And as a Cowboy fan, Kellen Moore has some issues when it comes to running some teams. So I'm very concerned about this team, and I really think they're going to be in contention for that #1 overall pick.
They want it, bro. That's for sure.
They really want it with this roster.
I do agree with the fact that New Orleans will be terrible this year, but they were terrible last year. So I do agree with that to an extent, and I give Spencer Rattler 5 weeks before he gets benched. But one team I believe that will decline in the NFC is the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, shoot.
Now, they just brought in Adam Thielen again for a reunion, and I really do like that because he had a solid season in Carolina last year. But at the end of the day, Minnesota faces 9 playoff teams from last year. Now, listen to this stretch of games consecutively. Post-bye, they have Philadelphia, Chargers, Detroit, Baltimore, Chicago, Seattle, Washington, and Dallas. That's a difficult stretch of games. And on top of that, you have Jordan Addison that's suspended for the first 3 games of the season. And you have now basically a rookie quarterback in J.J. McCarthy who missed all of last season. Now, I know he sat behind Sam Darnold, who had a phenomenal season in Minnesota last year. But if we're asking him to replicate that type of success for Minnesota, a team that was 1 win away from being the #1 seed in the NFC last year, I'm not going to sit up here and say that at all. I believe Minnesota will decline. I believe you're throwing J.J. McCarthy into the fire, and asking him to replicate that performance from Sam Darnold last year is just asking too much for a guy so young.
I agree with that. That's a hard place to go in, like out the gate to expect him to have that same type of production. But a team I think that'll be on the decline this season, I think it's going to be the Lions. As you've already said, losing all those coaches, losing a lot of guys, they're not going to be the same this season. I don't expect them to remake what they've done these past 2 seasons. But we're not going to spend too much time there. Who do you guys think is going to win the NFC?
I might be completely different from anyone on this table. I have the Buccaneers or the Los Angeles Rams winning this thing. Now, hold on a second.
The Rams?
First of all, yeah, absolutely. Just give me a second. First of all, I think Philadelphia and Washington are not going to be nearly as good as they were last year. I frankly think on Philadelphia's side, their defense is kind of giving me a bit of concerns, and Washington, they have the 2nd oldest roster in the league. I think that's kind of bound to be a bit, go on the decline a little bit. Okay. First of all, on Tampa Bay, they have an absolutely electric offense. I'm really excited to see what this thing can do. And, they got Bucky Irving, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. They got that new 1st-round pick with a wide receiver. I'm really excited to see what this team can do. And they got some scary weapons on that defensive side. And now, what you probably want to hear, the Los Angeles Rams, this is a veteran team that, remind you, last year, they brought Philadelphia down to the wire. In the divisional round. This team can win football games. And I do think with Devontae Adams in the new receiver position, Gerard Verse, developing as a new defensive star, they're going to be a fantastic team. And I do think they're going to represent the NFC, at least in the championship game.
Wow.
It's like, what do you think about that one?
That's all I can say. Wow. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning the NFC is
absolutely.
We're not going to talk about that one.
Blasphemy. Blasphemy. Let's keep it real here. The team to win the NFC this year is easy. It's the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I understand that, looking to replicate the results from last year, going to the Super Bowl, winning in dominant fashion versus Kansas City, it's hard to replicate and it's hard to repeat in the NFL. But at the end of the day, I've seen no moves made in the offseason from any team in the NFC to indicate to me that they can take this team down. Now, Philadelphia, they do have an early stretch of a hard stretch, of games in the earlier portion of the season. They faced 4 playoff teams from last year in Kansas City. You have a game versus the Rams. You have a game versus Tampa Bay, and you also have a game versus Denver. And I believe that you had a few changes offensively here and there, but you still have the same core. Now, I will say that Saquon Barkley won't have as much of a dominant season as he has had last season when he went over 2,000 rushing yards. He was the 9th player in league history to do so. And I believe that we will see a decline of workload coming from him after almost 500 touches. But, hey, they still have the best running back in the league. They still have A.J. Brown. They still have Devontae Smith. They still have Dallas Goedert and the reigning Super Bowl MVP in Jalen Hurts. No team, no defense in the NFC, I believe, right now can take this team down.
No, I agree with everything you're saying, but I do really want to bring attention to the fact that Los Angeles went on the road in the divisional round in the snow against Philadelphia and brought them down to the 2 minutes. That was an incredible performance by them, and frankly, I think they've only gotten better in this offseason. So I'm really excited to see what this Los Angeles team can do.
I do like the addition of Devontae Adams.
Absolutely, I think that's fantastic.
Puka Nacua, he had some injuries last season, which kind of derailed his sophomore year. But I do believe that he will bounce back. You have Kyron Williams, who was a stud in the backfield. Matthew Stafford, we know, is a dominant thrower. Arguably a top 10 quarterback in the league, a solid offensive line. Sean McVay is an offensive genius. But at the end of the day, when I look at this Philadelphia team, they are dominant on both sides of the ball. Now, the Rams have improved significantly defensively over the past 2 years, but it's not enough to stop this Philadelphia offense. Now, they've had some injuries, concerns throughout the course of training camp, whether it was Lane Dickerson or Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown. But at the end of the day, if this Philadelphia team can stay healthy throughout the course of this season, no team is taking them down in the postseason. Philadelphia wins it all.
Maybe I'm just a Philadelphia hater. Daniel, what do you think about
that's
this?
an easy, boring take right there. Going to the Eagles. I was about to say, I'd probably go exactly for what Aidan was saying there. The Rams took them down to the wire in the snow at Philadelphia. I mean, and this team's only gotten better. Adding Devontae Adams to Puka Nacua, that team's going to be good next year. If Matthew Stafford could stay like at a high level of production, I know like his back sometimes gives him issues and stuff, but if he can stay at a high level of production, those Rams are going to be a dangerous team. And the Eagles are good, but can they do that stuff 2 years in a row? I don't know. The Cowboys themselves might be in their back corner, like giving them a run for their money in the NFC East. So can they take on everybody? Not too sure about that one.
You
I
seem
think
to be
the Rams might
outvoted,
take
buddy.
it.
Hate to break it to you.
Okay, I'll
We
take
gotta,
that one.
we gotta
I'll
love
take that
Devontae
one.
Adams and Matthew Stafford over here. That's a good duo right there.
Yeah.
But let's flip it over to the AFC. Before we get into all that, as we saw, Travis just won over Taylor Swift as he proposed to her at that wedding. But one win that the Chiefs and the Travis Kelce might not be getting this year. I heard a hot take saying they might not even win their own division. What about that, Aidan?
Yeah, so I might be a Kansas City hater, and there's a couple unwritten rules in the NFL. One, you don't trust the Cowboys in the divisional round. Green Bay is always going to have a good quarterback, and you never write off Patrick Mahomes. That's just some things you just frankly don't do. But when I look at this Kansas City team, there are some massive concerns I have. First of all, when you look at last year, 11 out of their 15 wins were by one score or less. A couple of those games, if one play goes a bit different, they lose the games. So that's already wildly concerning. Second of all, they have just a bad offensive line. Like, that is truly one of the worst units, I think, in the league. Even though they got that new first-round pick, I think this is not going to make up for just, frankly, an old and just bad offensive line unit. Patrick Mahomes got sacked 36 times last year. That's the most ever in his career. And I think it's just going to get worse from here. And on top of that, this is probably the hardest division Patrick Mahomes ever has to face in his entire career. You got the Las Vegas Raiders on the up and up, the Denver Broncos looking to be fantastic, and the Los Angeles Chargers also looking to be completely terrifying. Like, this is a really, really tough division for them to play in. And they also got to play Baltimore. They got to play Buffalo. They got to play Cincinnati. They got some tough teams they have to play against. And Philadelphia, too. This is going to be a really tough year for them. I still think they're going to make the playoffs. I'm not trying to say they're going to go like 7 or 10 or something, but I do think that one of the teams in the AFC West is going to be better than they are this year.
Now, I do agree with the fact that the days of the Chiefs dynasty is over.
Over?
It's over.
Just flat out?
I don't see Kansas City winning another Super Bowl for the foreseeable future. I don't care about the magic of Patrick. At the end
You
of the
think
day,
he's washed?
I didn't say that. I did not say that at all.
Stop
I believe
putting
he's
words
one
in
of the
each other
best quarterbacks in the league. But at the end of the day, when I'm comparing this roster to a team like Buffalo, like a team like Baltimore, this team is just inferior. And that has been the case over the past 2 years. Now, some postseason magic has been sparkled upon this team over the past few years. Some luck has been passed over their way. But at the end of the day, I'm just really concerned about this team. Rashee Rice suspended, I believe, the first 6 games of the season.
Yeah.
That run game, Isaiah Pacheco, it's not looking really good. Travis Kelce has declined over the past few years.
Definitely.
No hope in this offense at all. I believe we see a huge decline in Kansas City when it comes to postseason success. But when it comes to the AFC West as an entity, I believe that Kansas City still has the advantage over Denver and Los Angeles. We cannot count them out.
Exactly.
I have a quick question for you. This is just a random question. Who is the starting receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs right now?
That's a crazy question right
I'll
there.
go Marquise Hollywood-Brown.
Yeah. Who is it? I can't name 3 wide receivers on that team.
Marquise Hollywood-Brown,
Rashee
Xavier
Rice.
Worthy,
Maybe I can,
Rashee
actually.
Rice.
I'm going to take that back.
Awesome.
But when you look at the receiver core, that is a really, really depleted unit that I'm really concerned about. I mean, they lost D-Hop in the season, who didn't do a whole lot, but you still lost another receiver that could make some, could do some damage in the season. I'm just concerned about this team. I think the offense, although it's going to be carried by Patrick Mahomes, I don't know what they're going to do.
It's a good core, but bad playbook. If they keep on spamming just Patrick Mahomes to Travis Kelce on that stupid mouse route or whatever they keep on doing, and then like trusting the refs to win the games, they're going to be in decline. They're not going to win with that stuff anymore. Is that who you had as your team on the decline, the Chiefs?
No, I did not. Actually, one team I have that will decline in the AFC is the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, my goodness.
Josh Allen?
Yes.
You hear this, Josh
I'm
Allen?
flabbergasted.
When we discuss Super Bowl contenders, we always discuss this quote-unquote Super Bowl window. And right now, for the Buffalo Bills, that window is closing fast. This season may be the last season Sean McDermott is the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. How many more tries will you have to get to a Super Bowl? You beat out Baltimore in the divisional round last year. You went to the AFC Championship game and lost to Kansas City again. How many more seasons are you going to waste of Josh Allen's prime? And, they have a favorable schedule in the regular season, but I saw no improvement when it pertained to this offensive core throughout the offseason and free agency. You lost Amari Cooper for nothing. He signed with the Raiders just a few days ago. And I believe that this will be another Josh Allen season wasted, and that is just a terrible, terrible thing.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on that. I'm going to be frankly honest with you. This team reminds me a lot of the Tony Dungy-led Indianapolis Colts. When the Patriots were the best team in the NFL and they were always second fiddle. I think that this Buffalo team is looking at the fact that Kansas City might be a bit worse this year. They might only have to deal with someone like Baltimore, maybe even a Cincinnati, and they have shown that they're able to beat those kinds of teams. So when I look at this Buffalo team, I'm looking at the fact that this might be their best opportunity to win if Kansas City is on the down.
Now, I do have a question for you. Keon Coleman is entering his second season. Is he ready to take on that role as the number one wide receiver for Josh Allen?
I'm looking at it. I'm pretty excited for Keon Coleman. I think last year it was a bit of a figure-it-out year because the Buffalo Bills have a very strange system where they don't really have a number one wide receiver. It's really kind of whoever is available. Josh Allen throws the ball just to whoever's open, basically. There's not really a designated wide receiver one. They haven't had that since Stephon Diggs left. So when I look at what Keon Coleman can do this year, I think he might go into that step as a wide receiver one a tiny bit more, but I'm not really expecting him to be the, absolute wide receiver one going into this next year.
The Bills have the advantage in the AFC East.
Definitely
by default.
do. Definitely.
The other three teams, Miami, New England, New York, they're figuring some things out. Okay. And they will win that division, but the reason why I say decline is because when it comes to the postseason, I can't sit here and say that they're better than Kansas City right now. I can't sit up here and say that they're better than Baltimore. So when it comes to the playoffs, offense is needed. You got to put points up on the board. And Josh Allen has proven time and time again that he can make some magic happen. But failure is always at the end of the tunnel for him and this Buffalo Bills team. Look at that receiver core. You have Keon Coleman. I'm a big fan of his, but look at the other options. You have Dalton Kincaid. You have Khalil Shakir. James Cook is coming off of a great season, but will we see another one going into this season? I just don't see it happening in Buffalo Bills with decline in the AFC.
That's a hard take. Yeah, I mean, the Bills there, I don't know too much about that one, but that does bring me into, what do you guys think is going to be one of the teams that are going to improve and ultimately win the AFC?
I don't
Take those both.
I don't really want to say this because I really do not like this team, but I think the years of starting to worry about the Patriots might be coming back. They got a brand new head coach in Mike Vrabel, who I'm a big supporter of. They've done a lot of work, like the Panthers have done, to support Drake May and make sure he has that protection. The defense has always been solid over there in New England, so I'm not really worried about that. They got some new playmakers in Stephon Diggs and Travion Henderson, who I think is probably going to be their leading rusher. And finally, like Carolina, they have an incredibly easy schedule. The most they got to worry about is playing Buffalo twice, Baltimore, and Tampa Bay. And that's basically it. They don't really have a whole lot to worry about. So I really think they're going to be a team to worry about in the next couple of years.
New England would have been one of my teams, but when I looked at that roster and that offensive core, I really did not see anything that indicated to me that said, hey, this team is much better than last year. Now, you did add Stephon Diggs, but he's coming off of a season-ending injury last year but after he had a phenomenal start in Houston under C.J. Stroud. And DeMeco Ryans there. But one team I have that will improve in the AFC is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville. Look at the AFC South.
That's true.
Your only competition is Houston. And I believe that they may have a shaky season. Indianapolis is going through a quarterback crisis, and Tennessee is Tennessee. And when I look at Jacksonville right now, they're 1-9. They went 1-9 in one-score games last season. They were 3-10 in games decided by 7 or fewer points. And I believe that can get turned around over the course of a season. You brought in Liam Cohen, who was the offensive guru in Tampa Bay after a fiasco of an offseason there. But you added Travis Hunter,
Yeah.
the Heisman Trophy winner. You pair that up with Trevor Lawrence, who has something to prove this season to the football world. You still have Trevor Etienne. You still have Brian Thomas. You have a pretty solid offensive core there. And I believe that they have a favorable schedule. They have the 9th easiest schedule in the league. So I'm going with Jacksonville. I believe that they will improve in arguably the weakest division in all of football. Jacksonville will improve in the AFC.
That'll be something worth to see. I got the Broncos and Chargers being the most improved. But real quick, who do you guys think is going to win the AFC?
I think you're probably not going to agree with this, but I got Buffalo or Denver. Buffalo, I think this is their year to finally go over that hump. I know we've been saying this probably since about 2020.
For 5 years, yes.
But I think this is, it's been a while, but I do think, they're on that precipice of being a fantastic team going into the all-time greats. I think they might be able to make the Super Bowl, but also I don't want to sleep on the Denver Broncos. I frankly think they're going to have the #1 defense this year. That defense looks absolutely terrifying. As long as Bo Nix doesn't have a sophomore slump, which I don't think he will, I think they're going to be a fantastic team under Sean Payton.
One team that will win the AFC. It's easy for me. Easy choice. The Baltimore Ravens.
Yep.
Went 12-5 last year. They lost to Buffalo in the divisional round, and right now I believe that they have the best roster in the AFC. Look who they added in the offseason. They brought in DeAndre Hopkins. Now, although this isn't 2020, he isn't the top 5 wide receiver anymore, but you gave Lamar Jackson another weapon on the offensive end. You also brought in Jair Alexander, and you added that to a elite
Stacked defense.
Kyle Hamilton just got paid today. Congrats to him. And I believe that for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, this has to be the year. Kansas City got humbled last year in the Super Bowl. Buffalo got worse. You didn't bring back Amari Cooper. The offense is looking a little shaky, as I mentioned. I believe that this is the time for Lamar Jackson to prove the haters wrong. For me, he is the MVP favorite, and I believe that there is no excuse for Baltimore not to win the AFC. And I believe Ryan Clark agreed with me as well in his segment on ESPN.
As great as Lamar is as protecting the football and producing in the pass game, let's not just say in throwing the ball, the early, let's go first half of Buffalo, that's where he lost it a little bit, right? He had a great second half. And so for Lamar, with Molly asking, can he win a championship? I think this is the year.
Yeah.
Right?
I want him to win a championship.
There are just very few Patrick Mahomes, not even very few. There's one of them.
There's one.
Right? Like there's one of them that the moment you put him in there, he was ready for every moment.
Yeah.
He was ready for regular season, first quarters, fourth quarters, 2-minute drills, everything. He was ready for it, right? He took the 1 L in the AFC Championship, and since then he's just been so hard to beat. And I think for Lamar Jackson, he's had to build a callus up of winning, and this is the year he overcomes and takes home the Lombardi.
Kyle Hamilton, visited with him yesterday, one of the best players in football.
Yes.
He told me on the first day of camp, John Harbaugh wrote on the board in the locker room an Ernest Hemingway quote, gradually, then suddenly. And what he meant by that was it's been a gradual climb up for the Baltimore Ravens.
No.
This is the suddenly.
Yeah.
Fellas, RC is speaking nothing but truth here. Lamar Jackson has something to prove here, and the hate is unnecessary, and I believe that he will prove everybody wrong. The Ravens win the AFC.
Hopefully so. That was my pick too. But for what everybody's been waiting for, what are your guys' Super Bowl picks?
I know you're definitely not going to like this, fellas, and I know I'm probably going to be the only one picking these teams, but I got the Buffalo Bills and the Los Angeles Rams going to the Super Bowl. And I do think the Buffalo Bills are finally going to win their first Super Bowl. I think Kansas City is on the decline, so I think this is their moment to finally get into that Super Bowl window.
You know, Aidan, that would be a great matchup if we were playing Madden, but let's be realistic here. The Super Bowl matchup this year, February 2026 will be the Baltimore Ravens versus the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Baltimore Ravens win it all. Lamar Jackson wins MVP and Super Bowl MVP and proves everybody wrong, and Baltimore wins its first Super Bowl since the Joe Flacco days.
That would be a fairy tale ending, and I kind of have similar, but I have the Ravens beating the Commanders. I have Jaden Daniels having an MVP-type season, surprising everybody. But, did you have something more to say, Aidan, before I go on to that?
I do want to say something. I'm very proud for me and you as Dallas Cowboys fans to not say the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl. We're progressing as a fan base, and frankly, this is a great step towards something beautiful.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Bro, growth, but baby steps, man, baby steps. But thank you, guys. Thank you for watching today. Please make sure to go like, follow, and subscribe on all our socials at TCU360. Thank you. I'm Daniel McCree with Aidan Reimer and Darius Adams. We'll see you guys next week.